Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Reed Robbins, and I'm coming to you from New York City. Today, we take up the topic, what DAW is best? Well, it's a tricky question, I know. And I have used 4 different DAWs. Well, 5 if you count MIDI Paint by Southworth. That's really going back. I've used Opcode's Studio Vision, I've used Motu's Digital Performer, I've used Avid's Pro Tools, and I have used Apple's Logic. And I'm a fan of some, I'm not a fan of others. I'll get into those reasons in a second. I am going to take a bit of an unexpected approach. If you're expecting to hear me talk about why you should use Digital Performer for film or Logic for songwriting, something like that, I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm thinking of Sir Ernest Shackleton, who was an explorer who in 1907 set out to explore the South Pole. And he put an ad in the paper which he was inundated by responses from. And here it is. Wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. That's really something. I love that. So while I'm not exactly trying to get to the South Pole, I really don't want things to be too easy. So in Logic, when I add a virtual instrument, and it adds a compressor and an EQ and 6 other plugins, I really don't want that. I want to create my own sound. That's too easy. When I add a bus and an aux track is just immediately created, that's not really for me. It kind of annoys me. So Logic is just not something I would really want to use. I know there's ways to get around that, but that's just the Apple thing. And also the documentation. When you click on some help menu, you get 2 sentences. I like a big, beefy menu. I want to know everything about the thing that I'm using. With Avid, I really dislike the company Avid. I keep a subscription to Pro Tools because I have clients that use Pro Tools. I need the interoperability. But I remember there was a program that it was called Digidesign, formerly the company. There was a program called Sound Designer 2, and man, that program was the best 2-track editor I've ever seen. You could make splices that were just so cool. It had this way of nudging things, and they just killed it. They just killed Sound Designer 2. I had a program called Masterless CD, which cost $1,000 in 1991. So that would be $2,000 now. $1,000 for this. I mean, and then they discontinued it after they'd taken my $1,000. You know, it's a spreadsheet. How much would it take to update it to work with the next operating system? And Sibelius, right? Sibelius was run by this really cool team of programmers, and when Avid bought it, they fired them all. And they just found some unnamed people from around the world who would basically just kind of spruce it up a little. Right now there's this bug where you can't paste in triplets, and it's been going on for about 10 years, if not forever. Why can't they fix that? It's such a small thing. I just don't like Avid. Opcode had an amazing product called Studio Vision Pro. And Studio Vision Pro was so great. I really won't go into why it was so great, but it just was amazing. And it was the first DAW on the market. A little bit of advice: if Gibson Guitars buys you, get a burial plot, because you're going to be gone soon, because Gibson bought them in 1998 and they died in 1999. So now I'm a Digital Performer user, and the folks who work at Motu, which is the company that makes it, are really fantastic. You can tell that they keep that program going because of the love of it. I think their bread and butter is in interfaces, but DP will do so many things that no other program will do. If you have a passage that's in minor and you want to hear it in Mixolydian, you just go to the transpose window and do it. If you want to map your modulation wheel to volume, continuous controller 7, go ahead. It's in a custom console. They have this thing called chunks, which most of what you think of when you think of chunks is sequences, so you can have multiple sequences. So that means you can have a whole album, for example, if you want continuity in the sound of an album, or if you have a film project and you want to have basically the same orchestra, it's great for that. I love chunks and having multiple sequences in a file. Also, it has VRACs, and that comes in very handy if you have virtual instruments and you want to have the same, like an orchestra, you want to have the same orchestra for a film. You can put those virtual instruments in the VRAC, and then when you change sequences, the VRAC still sits there. It's like a mixer that sits over to the side. And so you're able to change from one sequence to the other without having to reload all the sounds, and that's amazing. There's so many things you can do in Digital Performer, and while the interface is a little long in the tooth, it's getting better, but some of the components of it are rather old looking. It's an amazing group of people, and it's a sort of a family feeling company. And that to me is really cool. So Digital Performer is what I use most. I use Pro Tools sometimes when I have to. DP does have the Ernest Shackleton learning curve, but it's really worth it. And the manual is over 1,000 pages. So this is the thing. You know, if you don't want to go to the South Pole, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe Logic's for you. Anyway, to approach this question one more time in a slightly different way, what is the best DAW? The answer to that is the one you already have. Let's face it, unless you're going to do something totally different, okay, maybe you're going to start doing loop-based stuff. You want to go to Ableton, it's worth it to learn something new. Otherwise, just stick with what you have and focus on learning more about music, about learning more about production techniques, about making better sounding recordings, and that'll be great. Oh, and the ad and Shackleton, it turns out that's probably a myth as per Smithsonian Magazine. Smithsonian, why do you have to disabuse me? Well, the myth was good while it lasted. See you next time.